What's up, guys? We're back with the second one. We're just going to go into now how to prepare for the MUN conference and like the different research and things that you need to do to make sure that you're ready for your first and then so on after that. Take it away.
So just a few basics. You need to write your position or topic paper, which we'll talk more in depth later in this video. Write your GSL, which we talked about in our last video. If you haven't seen that one yet, I would highly recommend going back and watching it because it's a good precursor to this video. We'll be using some terms from that last video that in this video. So yeah, definitely go watch that. And also, if you want, you could print articles with statistics or research, or if your conference allows technology, save them on your computer, download them because the Wi-Fi at whatever school you go to for the conference may not work. So just download them on your computer and have them ready, or print it out if your technology or your conference does not allow technology. Also, do not forget to bring a notepad, large sticky notes, or other supplies like pens. And yeah, the sticky notes will be used for note passing, as we discussed in the previous video. The notepad is just for your own reference to take notes on what other people are saying in their speeches. So you can decide, do I want to work together with this person if they have similar ideals as me, or do I want to avoid them if they have completely different beliefs on this particular topic than my own country does. Also, make sure you wear formal clothes. Don't go pulling up in like casual stuff. Wear formal clothes so you look the part as well. First impressions matter. And bring water as well, because you're going to be talking a lot. The last thing you want is to be dehydrated. So bring lots of water, maybe 1 or 2 water bottles if possible. And bring your laptop, your phone, any sort of technology that you'll need during the conference. Even if the conference does not allow technology, a lot of the times they'll allow it for unmoderated caucuses only, so you can use that while you're writing up resolutions. But in the rest of the conferences, they may not allow it. It just all totally depends what conference you go to. Yeah, next slide.
Thank you, Vinod. And just a pro tip, most experienced delegates will reach out to their chair to ask them, hey, when can I use my device? When is it acceptable? And that is something you can do if you are confused. As Vinod said, some chairs, some conferences might restrict you to using your device during the unmoderated caucus. But other conferences have you can use your device at any time. And you don't want to be kind of left behind if other delegates are using their device to research during GSLs, during moderated caucuses, to give better speeches. You don't want to be that person that is not doing that. So always take opportunities that you've been given and research, bring research to the conference, but also during the conference, if you're able to continue to enhance your research. So what is a position paper? Most conferences require a position paper to be submitted to your chair before the conference. Most of the deadlines are the Friday before the conference, or even the day of the conference, as we just saw in TCC MUN in February. Position papers are a way to show the chair that you are coming prepared to the conference. And a position paper has much of the same things that a GSL has. We just covered that in the last video. The first main paragraph of the position paper is the overview of the topic. You want to read the background guide that is published by the conference about your specific topic and committee, and then do some more research in order to write that first paragraph about what is the topic, what exactly would your chairs like you to address about the topic. And I always tell delegates to read the background guide first in order to get an idea of what the chair is looking for. You don't want to research the wrong topic or the wrong idea and waste time on that. The second thing is the past UN actions. You want to research what has the UN done before to address this topic. And then the third paragraph is going to be your country's stance. We talked about this at the GSL, but how do you actually learn your country's stance? And Hiram is going to get into this on the next slide about research, but we recommend that you actually go to your news media from your country and read articles published from their news sites and from their political leaders. What are they saying about the topic? That will give you the best insight into what that country believes. Of course, you can make your own assumptions based on the country's GDP, based on their geographic location, their allies. You can use that evidence to form your idea of what the country's stance is, but you also need to have concrete evidence about what their leaders said as you give your speeches and in your position paper. The last thing is the proposed solutions. This is not a resolution. You're not writing a resolution to end your position paper. What you are doing is writing in a paragraph format what you might include in resolution. And these ideas are supposed to be not as detailed as they would be at the end of the conference when you have a greater idea of what you want to solve and how do you want to solve it. But I recommend delegates to be specific. What NGOs are you going to use? What past UN resolutions, policies, programs, right? The more specific you are, the easier it's going to be for you to write a resolution at the end of the conference. The length. So we're going to get into some examples at the end of the call, but the length is usually between 1 to 5 pages. And conferences are trending today to have shorter position papers, as you will see when we talk about those. Thank you. Hiram, take it away.
Of course. Thank you, Nanch. So to research and model UN, there's a number of things you need to go over. Firstly, you need to go over researching your country. Second, study the committee guide issued usually by the chairs. Third, research your committee. Fourth, research past actions or future policy recommendations, either by the committee or by your country. And then fifth, your allies and opponents. That way you can more easily form blocks. And lastly, current statistical data, which may help you understand the topic more thoroughly. And a couple of reliable resources for such research are the UN website, the CIA World Fact Book. Those are all great resources, and most importantly, the chair reports, or the background guides issued by the chairs. And a couple of tips and tricks: focus on reading articles from your country, which represent your country's stance. Second, spend time learning about the topic more thoroughly. Accurate YouTube videos, which are reliable. That works too. And third, and lastly, think about the unique aspect of your topic. So come up with unique solutions and research between sessions if possible, like Manansh previously said. That's it for research.
So now we'll take a look at some example position papers from us. Oh, okay, sorry. Wait. Okay. This is from Dallas Area Model UN number 13, which was 2022. Manansh, take it away.
Thank you, Vinod. So this was a position paper that I wrote for the Dallas Area Model UN Conference. And, most of our delegates, write a paper in a time crunch. And, how do you write a paper quickly and how do you write it effectively? So the main thing I did for this paper is I first read the background guide and I tried to summarize it in the first paragraph. And after that, I did my own research into, my topic was the effect of the war in Ukraine on gas prices. So I went to university articles that have statistics and studies on the topic, and I wrote about them. I summarized them. I have data in here that covers important statistics and data that is recent too, from 2019, from 2022, to be as relevant as possible. And next is the past UN actions. And here, this is a more recent topic, but I was still able to find certain things that the UN was doing in order to actually support the war effort and also research the war effort to see how many lives are being lost on either side. And the HRC was an important part of that. So I researched the HRC and what they have helped in the war effort. Next was the country stance. As you can see, this also has a lot of statistics based on what the country is. I always like to include a paragraph to start the country stance off with some statistics about the country itself, so that I have an idea as to where their GDP is from, what resources they have. And this will be especially important for crisis, to understand what does your country have, what is the strength of their military, their population size, and other things. So that's what I always start off my paragraphs with, and then I get into the topic, more statistics, more data. And then, of course, is my proposed solutions. Again, this is just 2 paragraphs, but as you can see, I've numbered my solutions 1 to 3. And during the conference itself, I actually made an acronym called EROG, Easing Russian Oil and Gas. So this was something I came up with during the conference, but this laid the foundation for me to come up with that. And lastly, we have the citations.
Yep. Next, we will look at Rizwan.
Yeah, thanks, Vinod. So for me, my key when I was researching was not necessarily the length. As you saw, Madanch is really long. But for this conference especially, they tend to look at, you know, more on the line of shorter position papers, and that's been, like, as Madanch said earlier, that's been sort of the trend recently. Um, so what I try to do is I try to summarize it as best as I could, and as simple as I could. So the topic is indentured servitude in Dubai. So I'm France. Obviously, I'm going to take a more Western side of this, you know, more punishing sort of sense towards a Middle Eastern country, and here it's the UAE. So, you know, I try to summarize, you know, what was going on with migrant abuse, low wages, as I said, horrific housing conditions. So this, like, builds up for what I believe as France, and what my delegation's beliefs are. So then after that quick little background, and, you know, when research, you can really use the background guide for this, but I would also make sure to, so for me, what I do is I look at, like, YouTube videos is something that's really vital to me. Just hearing, like, different sides is really important to learning about what the topic is, actually what's going on in the topic. And then we go into the country stance. So this is pretty short for me. What I did is, like, what then would France do? Like, what is their stance in the issue? So obviously, I would be against the kafala system or indentured servitude in the UAE, and then also working with the UAE, and that's where it says cooperation. And I focus heavily on a need for a partnership. So then that sort of stance then ties in to my solutions. Kind of like Madanch, I did a three-pronged, three-part system to protect the rights of migrant workers and also to protect the UAE economy. Similar to Madanch here as well, I did come up with the acronym. I called it the Triple M Action Program. So first we had, I think it was monitor. So it would be to monitor reports of human rights violation. And then that would then so this would be done through an independent commission. And then, you know, I would usually maybe at the end of that say, like, advice would be given to the government on how to reform their labor laws and their system. And then I think I forgot what the other two M's are, but then I would also encourage subsidies for companies to aid in improving housing facilities. So then that would provide incentive, and just like my stance, it wouldn't go too far into breaking down the UAE economy, and actually help their economy as well by providing subsidies. And then the last one was a partnership with EcoSoc to aid migrant workers, actually. So then going back on that idea of helping those who are being hurt. So that sort of, it starts using the background guide, then going into, you know, what is your country going to stand on that background guide, and then using that stance to then come up with, this is key, is unique solutions to the problem.
Thank you, Rizwan. Quickly, we'll go to Hiram.
Thank you, Vinod. So this was from TCC MUN, representing Portugal. So again, one page, very short. And in spite of the limited space I was allowed to express my country's stance, I still tried making the most eloquent use of my research and included specific resources to explain how I'd further the committee goal. I start with a brief introduction, the first paragraph of the topic, which is predominantly coming from the background guide provided by the chair. And then in the second paragraph, I get into, you know, a mixture of my own research and what the chairs provided me with in their research, and kind of blend it together and explain. I'm starting to get into, like, what Portugal's stance was in regard to the spread of communism in this case, or in regard to whatever the topic might have been. And then the last paragraph, I try to kind of explain what Portugal's solutions and how it could contribute to such solutions would be. I explain, you know, I share that I've done my research in regard to Portugal and its natural resources in the 60s, its stance at the time, any allies it might have made use of in order to further these goals. And here's a quick example. I provided a very specific resource that could be used for the sake of serving as both a neutral diplomatic conduit globally and suppressing communist uprisings in its African colonies, that being tungsten. I just tried to be the most specific and the most eloquent as I could in this paper, but that's basically the idea of this paper.
Thank you, Hiram. And our goal is not to overwhelm you guys. These are very specific papers, and it's taken us, practice to write such papers. So I would suggest, just get started. If this is your first conference, just go look at the background guide as your first step, and just do your research and slowly work yourself up to writing this paper. This is not a daunting task, and this can be done. So I encourage you guys to go for it, and put your best foot forward. And most of us would like to start the weekend before. So that's another piece of advice, starting ahead of time. So thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you at the next recording.